I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. Amen. Amen.
I believe in God. God calls each one of us by name, but we can't return the compliment because God has no name. This is true not just in English and Latin, but in every language, and not just in Christianity, but in all the religions of the children of Abraham. Every one of the names that we use is just an ordinary word made special by writing it with a capital letter. In Arabic, for example, the literal meaning of Allah is just the God or the Spirit. The namelessness is universal, so what do we mean by it? Early in the history of Revelation, God manifested himself to Moses in the burning bush on Mount Horeb, and he told him to lead the sons of Israel out of Egypt. So prudently and reasonably, Moses asked God for his name. And God answered Moses, "I am who I am. Say to the people, who has sent you." That is, under the guise of giving an answer, God in fact avoids answering at all. God refuses to answer because what is the name of God is not a valid question. It's as if Moses had asked, what color is the number 12? Naming cannot work when it comes to God because of what naming is and what it does. When you identify anything, you do so in two steps. First, you say what kind of thing it is. For instance, it is a human being. Next, you say which of all the possible things of that kind is the one you are talking about. Is it Edwin or is it Eleanor? The act of naming is that second step. With God, the naming, the second step, can't happen because with God, the first step is impossible. There is no kind of thing that God is. God is not of any kind. God just is. So there is nothing that naming can do. Asking God, what is your name, means asking, which God are you? But God, with a capital G, is not a God with a small g. We do not believe in gods. There are no gods. God is not a God. In every religion with gods, a God is a spirit. That is, a part of the world, and maybe it has some powers over it. On the other hand, God, with a capital G, is not part of the world, and he has all power over it. Names give a degree of control and even power over whatever it is that is named. They encapsulate a thing into a form that we can handle. Take diseases, for example. Sometimes you hear about somebody suffering from an illness. The illness has facts about it. It has symptoms. It has times or circumstances when it feels better or worse. Perhaps it progresses. Perhaps it gets better. Hearing all this gives you a feeling of helplessness. It's unsettling. But if someone, a doctor for example, then ties all that namelessness together, that set of symptoms together, and gives it a name, our helplessness and our disorientation vanish. Perhaps the named disease is serious, or perhaps it isn't. That's not the point. The important thing is that it has a name. The name wraps it up safely. God cannot be wrapped up because God has no handle. The mysterious four-letter word, the tetragrammaton, YHWH in our alphabet, which as far as I have understood means I am, or who is, or both of them at once. That amounts to a refusal to give a name, but it ends up being used as if it were a name. That name that is not a name, YHWH, is too holy ever to be pronounced. It was spoken once a year by the high priest, and after the temple was destroyed, it was never uttered again. Nobody knows for certain what it sounded like. In the Hebrew language, they did not write vowel sounds until very late in history. But the consensus is that the sound of YHWH was what we write now as Yahweh, YAHWEH. This causes a certain amount of embarrassment. Every Jew knows that on seeing the word YHWH in Scripture, one says the word Adonai, Lord, instead. In the Jerusalem Bible, the name of the Lord is written YAHWEH. But to avoid the risk of that word being said out loud in all our liturgical texts, the name is written explicitly as the Lord. If it ever strikes you as absurd to be told that the name of the Lord is the Lord, take it as a useful reminder of the unnameability and the untamability of ultimate being. God is truly an infinite distance away from us, and it truly is a distance that we can never bridge. We can never enter into a relationship with God. Where paganism falls short is that it forgets that there are two sides to this infinite gulf. We cannot bridge that infinite gap, but God can. We cannot enter into a relationship with God, but God can enter into a relationship with us. Salvation history documents this, and the Creed proclaims it.